You big, beautiful world, how are you doing tonight? Welcome to our podcast, Brothers of Many Words. I'm your host, RP.
I'm your co-host King Mackey.
Special guest Christopher Wilkins.
How are the Kings doing tonight? How are we doing?
Phenomenal. Loving life.
Wonderful, wonderful. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Mom was at work tonight, so it's a beautiful chaos. It's a beautiful chaos. Always go gadget go once again, but I enjoy it. Keeps me on
Yes,
my toes, keeps me busy, keeps me full of
yes,
energy. So
yes.
absolutely
I feel
enjoy
you.
it.
I feel you.
That's right. That's right. Okay. We are down one king tonight. Hopefully he'll be back on next week. We wish him nothing but the best. Hopefully we'll see him soon. But tonight we're rocking just us three. As always, we're gonna bring it to you as best we can with much love and as much insight as we can possibly give you. Tonight, okay. For start off, we have some positive words of inspirations. This one is we live between the act of awakening and the act of surrender. Each morning, we awaken to the light and the invitation to a new day in the world of time. Each night, we surrender to the dark to be taken to play in the world of dreams where time is no more. I like
I
that
like
quote.
that. I like that. You come up with some powerful quotes, bro. I'm feeling those quotes.
And, I used to, uh, a while back, I used to post them every day
Oh
on
wow,
Facebook and on Instagram. I got away from that, but I used to do it every day. I did it for like almost 3 years. I did that.
wow, wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I like that.
yeah. Absolutely.
No,
Absolutely. Okay,
great.
tonight is open mic night. Yes, sir. Open mic night. On open mic night, we pick one, two, three, four, five questions. Random questions, and as you can see, they're in the chat, so you're more than welcome to voice your opinion in there as well. Um, we give our insight, we discuss them openly, and we hope you guys enjoy it. So the very first question, we'll kick this thing out. The very first question is, what is your view of the modern public school system? Do you believe it still effectively prepares young people for adulthood in real life? And I know we had a question last podcast open mic about public school versus homeschool. This one here's a little bit different, kind of along the same lines. But Chris, let you kick
You
it
want to
off.
kick it off again?
Yes,
So
sir.
what is my view on the public school system, and do I believe if it still effectively prepares young people for adulthood in real life? And my answer is absolutely not. I wish it were so, but it doesn't. And I think a good way to answer that question is to think to yourself, and you think of a public school system, you send your kid, do you honestly think your kid is being prepared for a real life scenario? Think about when you were as a kid, how you went through school, right? And now we are adults, we're living life. And I can honestly say school didn't prepare me for shit, for anything at all. And I think it's gotten even worse. Um, School never let me be creative. They wanted me to follow a institutionalized doctrine, day in and day out, and never allow my mind to be creative and explore um, maybe different paths and avenues I wanted to explore when I was a kid, but wasn't able to because I had a strict thing that I had to abide by. I do not think our public school system today is doing our kids any favors and allowing them to actually express themselves as a human being in this world. And they're not properly preparing our children for what is actually in the world. And if you don't spend the appropriate time, as most parents are working all the time, you send your kid to school. Who is influencing your kid? Are you, or is it the
hmm hmm You
guy?
know, you touched on you touched on 2 points there, and I agree with you as well. It's not the school system is not set up for a child to come out and be successful in the real world. As far as memorizing uh, certain things versus teaching it, along the lines the skill set that is going to allow you to succeed in life, especially when you talk in terms of financial education and things like that. Since I started this journey from reading the books that I've read, I didn't know any of this stuff. And it is crazy to say, but I just didn't. I just did it, and I feel a little bit ashamed, although I had no control over that. Um, but it is definitely not set up that way. But you touched on a point too about the parents having to go to work, and so you throw that factor in there as well. You know the way things are set up to where you have to work, and then putting your child in child care and every single day for 8 9 hours on end. You lose that aspect of that bonding with your child as well, and they get influence from other people as well, and that's a great point to that. So you can see just right off the bat how the parent is actually taken out of the kid's life as far as providing the nurturing and the influence and the guidance that they need, as they progress in this life. But I agree with you. It's the model is the model is outdated.
100%.
Yeah. I'm a piggyback off of Robert. The model is delusional. It's delusional.
Yes.
And like I stated before, I seen my father work very hard for 55 years and look forward to something for greatness at the end of that. And it became a lie. You know what I mean? And like Chris said, it's only getting worse. The lie is only expanding itself. And so I believe the system was only really put into place to fit the narrative of a few, from the beginning. And I believe that it's always necessary to be self taught, find a mentor or find something that you are excited about and pursue that, and you'd be surprised what the outcome could be. But self-made is necessary, absolutely necessary.
To add on to that, when you spoke on your father, my mom was the same way. She worked one job, came home,
Hmm.
got dressed, and went to another one. So it was just me and my sister, and it was watched her do that all the time. Now, I don't think she was looking for anything that pot of gold at the end there. She just did what she had to do. But I can
Right.
vividly remember her working her tailbone off and not really having that connection, as we have with our children. And with the self-taught thing, um, I see the light now. Had I not started to take this journey with reading, who's to say I wouldn't be on the same path? And now I see that I want something different from my kids because
That's
now
right.
I can see the difference in the school system when they come home and from what the knowledge that I picked up
Right.
in a short period of time is
Right.
absolutely not the same. It's not the
Right.
same.
Right. And let me just add something on there too, Robert, is that, you know, my first initial my four kids actually went to school, the public school, and then my last two I actually homeschool. And I see the grave difference in the homeschooling and the progressiveness and the attention that's necessary, than I did when my kids were going to public school. You know what I mean? I see that, like you said before, you have somebody there with your child 8 hours a day that has their own life and is making X amount of money in order to do this, and it becomes stressful and becomes this and it becomes that, and I do believe that society itself put people into a place where it required mothers and fathers both to work. You know what I mean? Which allowed daycares and other institutions to rise. But at the same
Absolutely.
time, I'm gonna tell y'all this one thing about homeschooling. That attention that's necessary for those kids, it goes a long way. It goes a long way.
You,
You know,
also add on that we think about um, like if people are thinking about homeschooling, I think it's a difficult thing. It's not homeschooling. Public school, what they're offering us is basic education. Basic education. That's what K through 12 is. It's not some higher class education. It's basic. What is that? That's basic reading, basic writing, basic math skills. And history, I mean, don't rely on the public school system for history because it's only going to be by a biased point of view and not the real point of view.
absolutely,
Right.
But
absolutely.
Right.
that's what education, basic education is for. It's to prep you for higher education.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And speak, for you too. So, um, I'm going to pull out my youngest one here next Wednesday. We're going to start
Oh
homeschooling
wow.
her, and then the two middle ones. They after this year they'll be done. And so my oldest, she has one more year left, and she wants to go. And I get it. She's made that
Right.
journey, and for her, she's very, very mature for her age. So I'm not worried about it. Like, she's ready to attack life. She's already doing it. And
Right.
so for her, I'm not
Right.
worried. Now, it stresses her out. There's a part of me, that wants to come on home, so you ain't got to push yourself through all that stress every single day, even if it's
Right.
just for one more year, because it's not
Right.
going to change.
Right.
But my three other little ones, uh, I'm going to take them out. So
Right.
I'm looking forward to it, and I commend you, gentlemen. So, like,
Good
they
for
on
you, man.
spring break right. They're spring break right now. So having my kids at home, and I get to put these baby browns on them every day. Man, I love that.
Mhm.
I love that. And
Mhm.
so I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I commend you, Kings, for absolutely taking that step right off the bat. I wish I had known a little bit sooner, but I see the light now. I
Right.
see the light
Right.
now.
So I want to bring attention real quick. We have somebody in our chat, ST Michael 3305, dedicated follower. He stated about the public school. He says in public school, they don't teach you what you need to be successful. You know, um, and they say they are just a number and a dollar amount. So yeah, but just wanted to recognize ST Michael 3305.
Hmm. And I believe you said this last time as well too, in the infamous words of Mr. Rockefeller. Uh,
Yes.
he
Yeah.
wants a nation. He doesn't want a nation of thinkers. He wants a
Right.
nation of workers, and that is
Right.
still very prominent to this day.
Right. 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 And there's projects. I mean, even and I know but when you think about the classroom setup and being in a row, and then when you become an adult, you buy a house in the row. Very few people live in a rural society where there's not
Mm,
many people around them. You know what I mean? And if they did, they probably weren't people or either people who went to school and recognized what was going on, or they didn't. They were homeschooled. But when you start looking into that, like you said, based upon the Rockefellers, it is some devastating information in there that I have you thinking a little bit different about how you've been guided through society.
In a perfect world, public school system could fare very well, but unfortunately, our system is not for our freedom; it's for our control.
yes, and I don't know what we rank globally as far as an institution when it comes to education. I have viewed other countries, and
For
particularly Japan, and it is it is amazing. It is amazing the school system and how they do things. It is it's very crazy. I mean, in a good way, in a
Right,
very good way, how they do it.
right, right.
Good
All
stuff.
right,
Okay,
all right.
question number two.
Okay.
What does true meekness actually mean? Why is it important, particularly in life and character, and in the particularly in the life and character of a man?
Hmm.
Haru, Haru.
All right. So, you know, um, when I initially looked up the definition of meekness, it became
Hmm.
something more, passive or submissive. But I actually talked to the gentleman who actually presented this question, and his mindset is a warrior in a garden. So what I get out of that really is this a form of Jesus's consciousness. It's a
Hmm.
form of walking in that way. You have the ability to hurt and to harm, right? But yet again, this sense of warrior slash I'm in a peaceful state of mind is presented constantly. And I have one story to back up with that, is that this is my personal story. And I was doing some survival training, and we had to build our shelters on this 100-acre ranch, if you would say. And so I built my shelter. And so when I go to my shelter, I see this copperhead snake in my shelter, right? And it just slithers out of my shelter and continues on. And then another time I had ended up buying a log cabin home, and I seen a kind of a rat snake. It was very aggressive, and yet not poisonous. So what I get from that is that some of the most harmful things in the world will first look to retreat from the situation before it actually has to bring harm or death to the situation. So meekness is necessary, and I think most men need to have that, which is again, I believe, is a form of what we would call the Jesus consciousness.
Mhm. That's really good. But I had to look it up too, because I didn't know what meekness means. So I thought it was, a form of quietness, and it's not that. It's to what you were talking about. It is humility and modesty, and so I had to reflect back just on myself and to see if I have those things. At one point in time, I can honestly say I did not. It is something that
Right,
I've had to
right,
acquire.
right.
It's something that I've
Absolutely.
had to acquire, especially coming from military and going through the things coming from there. And um, there was one point that about being aggressive, but kind of being a big guy and then having that look in your face, and
Right,
putting people off and having your own family members be afraid of you. Not that you would do anything to harm them, but it's just that
right,
aura that you give off. And so it has certainly been a journey for me to have have been able to, and I can't even explain it to you, but that the creator just wasn't done with me yet.
right,
Giving me, opening up my eyes through my wife and my children and through people he surrounded me with to be able to break through that stuff and crack those
right,
walls and allow that meekness, if you will, to come out. Because now it's like, it's like I think I've said it before. Everybody thinks, "Oh, Robert, you're just a big old teddy bear," and it's like, I love that. I love that. I
right,
would rather have
right,
that attached to me than somebody
right,
that someone cannot approach.
right, 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 right.
Yes, sir, man. Um, what is true meekness, and actually, what does it mean, and why is it important particularly in the life and character of a man? Um, well, I mean, I agree with both you guys. I mean, the true definition of meekness is
You, you know,
strength
Right,
under
and
control,
it cut him off.
and
So with
strength under control.
and so
Think
the
of it as
other part of that too. Why is it
a
important
horse,
in
and some
life and so
take a
for
wild
character of a
Mustang,
man? I
and
absolutely think,
to take that
especially
Mustang
if you
and
have
train it. It
children,
goes through
there's the other side that they
lots
need
of
to
time
see
and effort
because that
to
what comes
forge
with
that
that
horse
is
into
vulnerability.
something you can ride,
And
and that is strength
and
under
and I
control.
certainly
That's what
believe
true
your
meekness
children,
is.
especially when you're talking about coming from
Are
a
we stalling
dad
out, guys?
perspective, because dads tend to be the disciplinarians of the house, and so you
Mm.
know kids can be fearful of that because dad's going to get them hind parts, this and that and the other, but it's also how you discipline. Is it with aggressiveness? Is it with anger versus with talking to it and with love that comes with that? So I definitely in the character of a man, which spills over into everything when you're talking about dealing with other people and being understanding and
mhm.
welcoming, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. And add to that, I'm thinking about experiences that I've come encounter with that showed my meekness, right? And I
Hmm.
remember a particular time my son's 21 years of age. We're in Starbucks in Dallas, Texas, and we're standing in line, and there's these me and about my age too, at that time, maybe 30 to 40 years old, and I'm a workout buff, so bodybuilder, CrossFit, things like that. And so they see me and initially assume I'm on steroids. This guy's on steroids. I see it, and they're just talking bad behind my son and I. And my son looks at me and he's like, Dad, you're not going to say anything. I said it's unnecessary. They're going to believe what they believe anyway. And the stigma is if I am, then I would turn around and begin to show that aggression that comes with that. And yet again, I'm not. You know what I mean? And I've always told him, and I'm at the state, and I feel like most people should be at a state where, you have your peace within chaos. There's a
Sure.
lot of things going on around us right now in this day, and if we allow these things to bother us on an everyday basis, man, it could really be a sad life for some you know
Hmm.
but yet again, I feel like meekness, even in this day of time, is really showing itself. Is really showing itself because I feel like a lot of people have a lot of they have power to do certain things, and yet again they're choosing not to do it. So
King, I have walked that same path to the number of times with the steroid question. Um, it listen, it it used to not fire me up, but like it just I didn't you know not take it well. I didn't erupt on anybody, but it was like um, you could tell I was displeased because I work hard. I work hard for my size and my
Right,
strength.
right,
But again, it was one of those things that through understanding and working on myself that I had to earn that patience to be able to understand that it's just a question and they don't understand.
right,
And so
right.
just brush that stuff off. Just brush that stuff off.
And even biblically, the turning of the cheek is a sense
Mm,
of meekness. It's
right.
a sense of meekness. You know what I mean? Somebody hits you in one, then you just turn the other cheek, or they say something again, you turn the other cheek. You
Mm-hmm.
know. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. We was
Go ahead,
Sorry.
brother.
Sorry, I just got back the system online. Everything went down. What question are we already at? I'm sorry.
we
No,
stuck
question
with
number two.
yes.
Oh, meekness, meekness. For some reason, the questions ain't showing up in my chat, but um, weakness in the character of a man. Uh, where I was getting at is when I was a kid reading the Bible, I was taught meekness as somebody that's kind of weak and passive and mild, and that's kind of what I was taught it was until a couple of years ago, when for some reason it sparked me to start looking into this stuff. And meekness is a Greek term. Calling it is actually come from training a horse, a wild horse, into something that you can control, strength under control. And the great term, Mackie brought it up. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And what that means is to put yourself and chisel yourself into a strong man, but then have that strength under control. To protect somebody, you have to be strong, and to protect somebody appropriately, you do have to be meek, because meekness is something that shows mercy, and that's what Jesus is trying to get at for us. Is for us to be a strong, virtuous man, we do have to be strong, and we do have to hold ourselves. And it's not intelligence, but in strength, in intelligence as well, not just strength. I think that's really important. Um, but yes, to be meek is to be merciful and strength under control, required for a man.
Mhm. Yes. Yes. You said required. I agree with you on that. I agree.
Certainly. Certainly. Cool. All right. Question number three. Welfare. Do you believe the welfare system in America is keeping people dependent, and why? So, it was created, the Social Security Act of 1935, to address severe poverty among the elderly, unemployed, and disabled. So it was initially started out, for something um, what was good. I would say that was good. Through time, it has certainly been abused. It has certainly been abused. I have known people who absolutely take advantage of the system. That there's no doubt about that. So, is it keeping people dependent? Sure, for sure. For those who can take advantage of it, I do think that there is that element in there. And why? Why? So that's a deep question. Why? So I mean, there's a number of reasons. Laziness, not wanting to take care of yourself. And maybe there's medical situations. Well, so I don't want to be too hard on those, but I think that at this point in time, it's it's out of whack. It's out of whack for what it was originally meant for.
Would you mind?
So I was yeah, go ahead.
I was asking, you remind me repeating that question for me?
Yeah, so question number three, welfare. Do you believe the welfare system in America is keeping people dependent, and why? Yeah. So I'll go ahead and go. So, and I'm like Robert. The root of welfare was a mistake of our government, creating a Great Depression. And what it was is to help people restore some sense of dignity within themselves. And it wasn't meant for it to be, something where you continue to live on it. You know what I mean? Do I believe? In my own way, I do believe there should be some stipulations, you know, where you can outgrow that. It's nothing wrong with needing a little bit of help, um, but there should be a point where you outgrow that. And why, I do believe that there are some parts of the system that has its own negative narratives, where you do want to keep some people dependent on that because again, that is where control can easily be manipulated. you
True.
know again, it could be a good means to an end, if you put that effort to it, but yet again, it doesn't seem like most people do it. um, and just so let me just read something real quick before Chris comes on. So we got ST Michael 3305 kind of chiming in on the question. He says, absolutely not. I believe that people abuse that system because it makes the parents unable to show their children how to be independent and strong. And so I would have to agree with you on that too. Definitely.
Yeah, man, I agree. Um, so in my opinion, with the welfare state and our government, this may sound harsh, but I believe that the federal government should not be involved in welfare at all, at any governmental level, state or federal. Um, Before we had a welfare state, the community took care of people in need. And as soon as you give things to the government on a bigger scale, they're going to fail on a bigger scale. And there's going to be corruption on a bigger scale. And if we took away the welfare state that we have, um, people in general are good. There's a lot of good people in the world. When you, I know when we look at the news and the current world today, we look around ourselves thinking people ain't really that good. But in general, there's 8 billion people on this planet. And for the most part, we are actually all pretty good people. And when we take away that power, because what welfare is a form of control. Once again, anything that comes from a government that size, like an empire, it's going to be for control, and that's what welfare is. It makes you dependent on the system that they've built, so they can keep on controlling you and sucking you dry. But we take that welfare away from the government, by default, your community is going to pick up that slack and be able to provide people what they need. And they're going to be able to provide it to the actually people that need it and be able to delegate that more appropriately than on a wide scale than the government does.
So let me pose this question to what we're talking about. So, you mentioned, and you're right. At one point in time, there was no welfare, and everybody took care of everyone. Now, given today's climate and the division that there is, do you think that that is even possible? Like, if they were to take welfare away, do you think that most people would pick others up?
I do.
Hmm.
I do. I
Hmm.
know we don't think that, but I actually do. I do think people would do that. Um, but the thing is, we have to give people those opportunities.
True.
And if the state is
True.
always there to help out, people are never going to take that opportunity to help someone. And sometimes you take that welfare away. Sometimes it takes somebody themselves getting down to the actual bottom, realizing that they're messing
Absolutely.
up. Then they start taking care of themselves, and then guess what? They start taking care of other people. Um, but
Absolutely.
that initial cut off, it's like taking the band-aid off your kid, man.
Right.
There's really no easy way of doing it.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. And that, um, there also could be a situation to where it's not long term. Maybe you
Right.
give. I'm just saying. Maybe 6 months where you
Right.
you you get it, and then doing that you provide some type of a trade. Like, there used to be trade classes in school, and that's no longer the case. Like woodworking
Right.
and cooking classes and things like that. But maybe it doesn't have to be, you get it uh, forever, and then just because you have so many kids. No, you put the pressure back on them. You got 6 months, and in 6 months you
Right.
go into a trade school to make yourself
Right.
valuable to some degree, and then you jump off that platform to progress to be better. But I certainly agree with you. Understand what you're saying too, Chris. There is that ways too, because it's not going to be an easy road. However, as Haru stated from the gentleman in Saint Michael in the text, like it certainly takes away um, the power of pushing people to be independent and strong. Absolutely.
I got a guy in the comment.
Right. Right.
All right.
Right.
He says, I would love to challenge the ST Michael 3305. He said, I would love to change the question to healthcare. But how are we going to get them motivated after using the system for so long? How long do you think it would take to go back to somewhat normal, Chris? There's really no way of answering that question, but I really do think people would bounce back pretty quick. We have an abundance in this country, but people don't know how to delegate that, and we actually waste and throw away way more things. We're not in. People are not really in our country. We are not poor. There's constantly people saying kids are not getting fed. I would like to know where these communities where American citizens are not being fed. Because most people on welfare, and I see those people go into the store buying their fudge rounds and their oatmeal pies and soda pop and chips and all that stuff on their food stamps, and they don't look like they're hurting for food. And to me, necessity is shelter and food and water. When you have those three, there's nothing more that you provided for you that you cannot provide for yourself. Yeah, I mean, people's been on it for a long time, but when you no longer have that faucet turned on, people will get thirsty and they'll figure it out. And I have faith in humanity. I do believe people would react quickly and take care of people in need. I do believe that.
You'll be amazed at what you can do when you're starving to death. You certainly will get motivated, highly motivated. And so, you spoke on it about the control and the power that has to be wrestled away first.
Yeah.
Has to be wrestled away first for to have a chance. How long would it take? I'm in agreement with Chris. I'm not sure. Is it possible? Absolutely. We are absolutely amazing people. We'll find a way. It's not going to be easy, but we'll find a way.
Mm-hmm.
People always do.
Yeah, quickly. This is one of my favorite movies. It's called The Cinderella Man with
Ooh, it's been a long time, so
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And that's what that's really about. You know what I mean? When you look into it, somebody who was on top at once and then fell all the way to the bottom where electricity's
Yes.
been turned off, almost to a point where he had to separate his kids because he couldn't afford to feed them. And then he built a skill through doing that because he was more of a, I think, orthodox fighter. And then he became southpaw. And so you'd be surprised the outcome. And I'm with Chris on that. You'd be surprised the outcome when you are put in a situation like that. Because I hear songs of the new time say that pressure
Yep.
is what makes the diamonds, pressure. So yet again, hey,
I mean, there's that old
let's put on
there's
that
that old
pressure.
saying that says with pressure, there's that old saying that goes hard men create easy times create soft men create hard times create hard men,
Yes.
and the cycle keeps on repeating.
Yep.
And there is truth to that, but that's a cycle that can be broken, and it it's on how we raise our generation. When we have children, it's how we raise them
Right.
and the perspectives we give those kids. And you can raise a kid to live in abundance, but also becoming strong and learning skills at the same time. But what we do is we make our kids' lives easy and we don't require anything hard of them. And then when they become of age, we expect those kids to know how to run the world, and they don't know anything because they've been handed everything.
Right.
I tell my kids, I told them since they were little, and I tell them every day, I'm going to apply pressure. I'm always going to apply pressure. You ain't gonna like it all the time, but I'm
Yes.
gonna give it to you.
Yes.
I'm gonna give it to you, and it
Yes.
is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
It is
Mm-hmm.
necessary. Hey,
Yeah.
Chris, I text you the last two questions in a text, so you
Right
can
on,
see
right
them.
on.
Okay, so question number four. Question number four. Do you believe in generational curses? Very interesting question.
Mm. Ooh.
I don't. I honestly
Who wants to?
don't know.
Really? Okay. Okay.
Well, I mean, I've never thought about that.
Okay. Okay.
I have a lot.
I,
Oh,
I'm
I
curious to
do
know,
believe in
Chris.
I do believe
Okay.
in generational curses, and but I do believe that um, that they can be identified, and once they identified, then you can be cured. And that's through being aware of yourself, and aware on how. I mean, it's many things. How you were raised. You got to think deeper and on your family. Think about how your mother was raised and how your father was raised and your past generations, and they do imprint physical traits and things that they develop in their lives that passes down to the kid. I do believe in that 100%. On the spiritual side, personally, I do believe spiritually there is generational curses. I do believe in that stuff. I'm a spiritual person, and I believe in Christ, but I do believe generational curses can be stopped. But it's up to you. You have to recognize that. For me personally, I mean, abuse when I was a kid, and it was my parents at the same time, you know, and it was passed on. And it's up to the person to stop that. But in order to stop that, you have to recognize it and accept that that's there.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And I'm with Chris. I do believe in it, and I believe it can be stopped. And and an example that really devastates our society, even just being sexual assaulted. Whether you're male or female by a father or mother or somebody in your family. And what normally happens with that is that person who was sexually assaulted goes through the next generation, right? And does the same thing. And then that continues to live through many, many generations until somebody tears that trauma up and redefines themselves and looks to make things a lot better for not only themselves but for the next generation. But yeah, my personal experiences as far as my kids was I raised my oldest two kids like I was raised, and I feel like, and like I mentioned before, I feel like they kind of feared me. And then as I grew and became more into who I am and knowing thyself, I'm able to raise my youngest two differently because now I see things differently. You know what I mean? So I really feel like I broke a generational curse because I gave a little bit more confidence. I'm giving more confidence into my kids' point of view than I originally did.
Yeah.
Also, too, I didn't mean to cut you off, Robert. Just bringing up Nick, who is in our chat. He wants to be known as Nick. He states,
Right
"I
on.
do not believe in general curses because each person is responsible for their own choices and actions. While families can pass down habits, huh, values, and even struggles, those things are not unbreakable curses, but control someone's future. People have the ability to learn, grow, and make different decisions than the generations before them." Great point of view. Great point of view, Nick.
So now that I understand the pretext of what you gentlemen talk about, yes, yes, I didn't understand what that meant at first, but now I understand. So yes, um, so I'm in agreement with both of you. So because I've had to, the discipline that I received as a child, I didn't understand why it had to be that way. It was something that has made an impression on me still to this day. But I vowed when I was that young in high school that I would never take that path with my children. So, and I have not. So I'm not realizing it, but I broke that curse right then, right there. Now, to what Nick is saying, I absolutely agree with him as well. Because here's the thing, you know, yeah, your daddy may not have been there, and yeah, you may have gotten your hind parts smoked, and yeah, you may have had the toughest of times. But once you become an adult, it is absolutely your responsibility to do better.
Yes.
It is absolutely your responsibility. It is no longer because you can't go back and be like, mama's not there.
Right.
When your mama's not there, it's on
Right.
you. So it's absolutely your responsibility to find a different way. Because that's everything that we've talked about before. We are beautiful, as we stated. If you were to take the welfare away, we would find a way. So this is no different. It's going to be difficult, absolutely. There's some things you're gonna have to work on and shatter and reroute, but it is absolutely your responsibility to do better.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Yes. Yes.
100%, man. And I'm with you, Nick. I'm not saying that to use generational curses as a excuse to act a certain way. What I'm saying is that their habits, like you're mentioning, their habits that's been passed down and patterns that show up, and I believe it is in our DNA. But what separates us from animals is that we have the intelligence to recognize that. So we have the ability to change our behavior, and we can't no longer use that as an excuse.
Right.
But before we can change our behavior, we have to first identify the fact that there is something there that's causing us to behave this way. And so we have to identify the pattern, then we can develop a new one.
Right.
And that's the power we have as an individual.
Yes.
Yes.
I do agree.
Yes.
I do agree.
I agree with you as well. So it's like, because when those things, as a child, you don't have a choice. What is you're influenced with, and what your parents, tell you every single day, good or bad, good or bad. But to everything that Chris just said, it makes me think of self-reflection.
Right.
And if you can do that, you have a shot. Self-reflection is a very powerful tool.
Right.
It is absolutely required for
Right.
growth in your life, because you're going to see things that you may not be proud of in your life. However, that's when you have that opportunity to change some things in your life, especially when you talk about generational curses and things like that.
Right.
But we're no longer taught that in society. Society today doesn't teach us to reflect anymore. It teaches us to become a victim. Like, oh, I feel I'm a victim, instead of self-reflecting that there's an issue.
Right. Right.
And I think there's.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was saying is that I think they want people to think that way. I don't think they want people to reflect and grow.
Yeah, and I feel like what Nick is saying caters to what society is right now. You know what I mean? He continues to say that blaming life difficulties on a generation curse can take away personal responsibility and empower individuals have to change their path. Instead, I believe that through self-awareness, faith, effort, and support from others, anyone can overcome negative patterns and create a better future regardless of their family history. And something to even add on that is that even just through religion, you know what I mean? That's a sense of control. That's a sense of taking responsibility away from yourself and then putting it onto something else. You know what I mean? I heard a story one time about a young lady who, had called her pastor and had threatened him, and then was on her way to kill him at the church. When she got to the church, she was met by law enforcement. They asked her, what was your motive? And she was basically saying that we're struggling. I have a hard time buying groceries and paying my rent. So that must mean that Pastor Thomas is not praying for us hard enough. I digress.
It's all great. And to add on to, Nick is right as well. Blame it. So y'all talk about it. We spoke on the welfare system. Part of that is too. Sure, people want to push those difficulties off because you got this steady income coming in, whatever that may be. So you don't have to go out there and punch that clock and go to work. You don't have to get up early in the morning and take care of those kids. It's a lot that goes into that. So yeah, it's hard. Life is hard. You got to listen. It's hard to succeed. It is hard not to succeed. You got to pick your poison. You just got to pick your poison. Which one you gonna do?
Nothing in life that has value was ever given easily.
Absolutely. 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 Right. Question number 5. Is it okay to come into a country illegally? Should you be given immunity if you have a family?
Mm, mm.
Dun 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 dun. So
um,
Let's kick
that's a
off.
wild question. That's a wild question going right now.
that
You know, listen.
is. That is.
So yeah, illegally, has it always been that way? I guess I don't think so. So when did it become illegal to come into another country? You know, now I get it. We are more advanced. Um, we are more advanced as far as a civilization. Um, I shoot, man. Um, and so, I mean, if you have a family, does that make a difference? Because there are people who pose as good, but still come in to do harm. I that's a tough one because a part of me wants to be like, it should be okay. You should be able to travel this beautiful earth as you please. It is meant for everybody. However, when you talk about bringing in governments and politics, then that's a whole nother form that changes the game. And for who is allowed to come into what country. There's good and bad everywhere. Even if you don't let this certain person in, you still got bad in your country. You know, if you don't want to
Right.
let that person in because of that skin color, I guarantee you there's somebody in your country that's got that skin color. So,
Right. Right.
you know, um, if you can take the government out of it, you should be free, in my opinion. It's the world is beautiful, so why should you not be able to enjoy
Mm, mm,
it? He didn't put it here. The creator didn't put it here for just for certain people for you to be say you can't go here and there. It's for everybody. We all live on it.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Huh. Okay. I feel the natural concept of a way the world should be, as Robert is speaking of, but the fact that we do have governance, and states and borders, and the fact that even myself, I have to be vetted for certain jobs and for certain positions, um, and even vetted from other countries, depending on where you're attempting to go. Um, so I think it's necessary to allow people here and they be properly vetted. I do know there was a test they had to take to understand a few basic facts about our country. And if they meet those qualifications, then they should be allowed to enter. And maybe, and then again, depending on if they end up doing something here, even something as little as a traffic violation, then they should be kind of warned of. Well, once you're a citizen, you're a citizen. But again, you should be properly vetted. Basically, I believe so. You know.
Yeah, man, it's tough. Really, I have two answers for this question. Um, Intuitively, my first answer is I don't believe we should have borders, and I wish we didn't have to. But the reason why we have borders is because we have a system of control, and you can't control something that doesn't have borders. Um, and
Mhm.
so we do have a government. We do have countries. I mean, it's how our world is being ran right now. And when we have these systems in place, if we don't have borders, as much as I hate to say it, it's unsafe for a country not to have borders. And when it comes to
Shoot.
say, this is a tough scenario, but we got a bunch of Mexicans and illegals on the south that has crossed over into America and they're illegal, and we're going through this mass deportation. And if an illegal person crosses our border illegally, decides to have kids born in America, dude, how does that work? In my opinion, um, the way it should work is we should be able to um, identify these people that are illegal. First, we have to identify them. Once identified, if they have kids and they're not a criminal, they don't have any criminal record, give them a 3-year to 5-year work visa. give them the opportunity to become a citizen in that time frame. If they choose not to use their time wisely and that 3 year mark hits and they're not a citizen, that's when their whole family gets kicked out, and that's just the rules of the game. But we have to properly vet these people for the safety of our own children if we're going to live here.
Yeah.
But there's all the answers are good. I mean, there's so many layers to that question. There's so many layers to that question. I mean, it's so many. Talk about the drugs and
Right.
all that, and,
Right.
and the firearms and the black market itself. That comes with that. So I mean, there's so many layers to that question. I don't, very powerful one for sure.
Right. Oh yeah.
I mean, a million ways you can go with that question.
That's what I mean. There's so many layers to that thing, man. You can spend a
I mean, but
whole.
me personally, I mean, I wish we didn't have borders. I really didn't.
Yeah. And that's so funny. I feel like each one of us brought the natural state of freedom should be available
Mhm.
to all. You know what I mean? It's amazing how each one of us brought that up, because I do agree. I do agree that, like Robert said, and like Chris said, you should be free to move around. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be no more. It shouldn't be a privilege. And so, but like I said, since the fact that we do, I do understand some form of protection that comes with that. It's like having your own house in your backyard. Somebody crosses your path, you're wondering who they are. You know what I mean? And you would question that until you are able to vet them in some sense, some shape, form, and fashion. And we do know that, and that's probably what's becoming difficult too, is because you're coming from another country, and getting that information might be difficult. It could take longer than necessary. And so but I do believe of good people should have an opportunity. You know what I mean? But the first thing, if you do something where you become a felon, um, then and you're properly, you know, judged, then you should be returned. I do, because it's not necessary to be here because you're not a prominent citizen of society. You're looking to wreak havoc.
And yeah, I mean, I believe it doesn't matter if it's just America, any country. You gotta have a border in the system that we have.
Yeah. Yeah, you come to my house, I'm gonna make it. If you don't follow my rules, you're getting kicked out. You don't take your shoes off in the house, like my wife say. You know what I mean, and put on the slippers. You're done. You're done.
That's right. That's
Yes,
right.
sir.
That's right. Wow, Kings, that was that's great conversation. Great conversation. Great questions all the way around. Love it.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely love it. Does anybody want to add anything else to those questions?
I
Um,
think they were great questions.
Hmm.
I think they're all really good. I mean, to end it off, for me, I would like people to truly, um, to start to journal your life and your behaviors to identify if there's something in your life that you want to change. The first thing you do is identify that, pull that out of your head, put it on a piece of paper, and get to work.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Conviction is necessary. You know what I
Sure.
mean? And I'm a firm believer, when I get up, I look myself in the mirror, I face myself. You know what I'm saying? And I speak to myself through that mirror, and I use that to empower myself every single day and to make the necessary changes. You know what I mean? Um, so I mean, but convicting yourself, I mean, I'm gonna tell you that right now, for most, that is very difficult to do. You know what I mean? But once you learn how to do that, um and I also believe that so many parts of who we are looks to correct us anyway. When
Hmm.
you think about dreams and visions and thoughts, and the universe itself, or your creator, or the higher architect, however you want to put it, I feel like they leave out pebbles, in order for us to continue to walk, and be guided. But again, when it comes to you know the struggle of not paying attention or being in the wilderness, then that's when things become different. But anyway, but yeah, I do. Anyway, I digress. Don't get me started. I digress. Let me stop. Let me stop.
I think Nick has a question, a short
Yeah.
question he
Okay.
wants to pose to us. He wants to pose to us.
What you
But
got,
that's all
Nick?
great. We can keep it
Yeah.
moving. You got Spotlight King?
I do have a spotlight for tonight, and this spotlight is tonight is the author is comes off a previous book we just finished reading a few nights ago. I wanted to recognize him, and his name is, or our spotlight for tonight is John G. Jackson. John G. Jackson, 1907 to 1993, was a historian, educator, and lecturer known for challenging Eurocentric narratives of history. Born in South Carolina, he became largely self taught and dedicated to life, to studying ancient civilizations, religions, and African contributions to world history. This was an African American historian. He taught at institutions like Roosevelt University and was a major influence in early Afrocentric scholarship. Long before he became widely accepted, Jackson's work pushed back against ideals that Africa was isolated or without history. He emphasizes global connections in intellectual traditions and influence on civilizations like Greece and Rome. His accomplishments and impact. One of the early pioneers of Afrocentric historical analysis before it became mainstream. Arthur influenced works with introduction of African civilizations and Christianity before Christ. He challenges dominant Western narratives about religion, especially the origins of Christianity, and inspired generations of Black scholars, activists, and educators to rethink African history. He also helped to popularize the idea that African civilizations were deeply connected to global trade and knowledgeable systems. So anyway, I just wanted to recognize John G. Jackson. And this ending quote is: before the world debated who controls global trade, Africa was already doing it, and scholars like John G. Jackson made sure the truth wasn't buried. John G. Jackson, we appreciate you, what you've done, and contributions you brought to this world and society. We continue to appreciate who you are.
That's very good. Very, very good. Very, very good.
Yes, sir.
All
All
right,
right.
next question's in here.
Okay. This question
He wants you to answer
is:
it, Mackie.
what do you all think the definition of integrity is? Also, do you think it is a big part of a person's core in life?
Oh, gosh. He said he wants me to answer first. Oh man, yes. So integrity to me is, I just give someone of illustration is that you do things regardless if you're being watched, but you do good things regardless if you're being watched or not. And it needs to be part of a person's core life. It needs to be, because if it's not there, it's questionable about what you might do or what you might not do. I do definitely believe it's necessary to have, and it's a strong point among me, because I'm a person. I believe in karma. I believe when you do good things, you get good things back, and I feel like, I've had many witnesses that, including myself, and I would continue to stand on that because it has done me well. Um, but yeah, integrity is a strong part of who I am. It's a strong part of what this world needs to rise upon these days.
I think integrity, it is a very important part of a human being. If there's goodness in you, it breeds morals,
Hmm.
it breeds honesty, it breeds principles. And if you are going to be that person, then you have to display those characteristics within yourself. And I do my best to do that because it holds me accountable.
Right.
It holds me accountable. It holds me accountable to my wife. It holds me
Hmm.
accountable to my children. It holds me accountable to mankind. It holds me
Right.
accountable to the Creator.
Right.
So, absolutely, it is. important. If you are trying to do right and you have that goodness in you, it is absolutely important. It is
Yeah.
absolutely important.
Yeah, man. Integrity, in my opinion, if you don't have it, you're not a man. And in our world today, we have so many fictitious things. On you look on the TV, everyone is acting, everyone is putting up a front, everyone's putting a filter on, and people are injecting synthol to make themselves look good. And the reason why is because nobody has integrity. And integrity is hard because that means you have to have faith in yourself, right? And you have to dedicate yourself to yourself, and then you have to develop the discipline to yourself. That's what true integrity is. The three core principles, in my opinion, is faith, dedication, and discipline. And yet, I mean, it's so important. You can't build a life and you can't have a foundation. And if you expect to influence other people, if you don't have integrity, you're always going to be found out.
Mm-hmm.
The circle, the circle of karma is always going to come back to you, no matter what.
Right. 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 No doubt. No
You know,
doubt.
you spoke on that. What came to mind instantly was like, what is done in the dark is done in the
Mm-hmm.
light.
Mm-hmm.
You can't hide those things that you do in the dark. You think you may, but they always come out in the
Right.
light. And discipline is a
Right.
core principle that goes right along with
True.
integrity. You're 100%.
But
Right.
to
Right.
to add
Right.
along with
Yeah.
that, RP is when for a person to have integrity, say your brother, one of us, right? And we see something in our brother. The Bible says to go to your brother and not talk bad about them. And
Right.
if a man does decide to open up and be truthful with you, that doesn't mean, oh, I got you. Let's put him down. Like, oh, you're not a man of integrity.
Yeah.
That's a man trying to show integrity. And if a man is starting to open up and actually shows integrity, do not squander that. And there's so many times that people do because that's an opportunity to lift yourself up above that person. But I don't believe in hierarchy.
Right.
Because if you're a true man of integrity and you're a true man of meekness, you're going to see that that man is trying to open up and come true to his being. And if you shut that down, he's most likely never going to do that again.
Right.
But
Right.
man, and most times than not, that is viewed as a sign of weakness, and it is to everything you just said. It is not a sign of weakness. It's just not.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
A
And
lot
here's
of
the thing
times it's
about
the
that
last
too.
calling.
I'm willing to accept that if somebody believes that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I'm willing to accept that. You know what I mean? Because even being in the business that I'm in, you deal with people on a regular basis, and I do security, and so people try to step up to you. You know what I mean? But lo and behold, the cards. Through my knowledge of who I am and my experience, man, I'm telling you, it brings a humbleness to each one of us by the time we get done through the conversation. But anyway, I wanted to read what Nick stated. Nick stated, based upon his own question, he says, I believe the same thing. He agreed to what we were saying. He said, also, I believe it's the only bank that you can take out but never deposit back into. There you go.
You're right. You're
Appreciate
right.
that comment, Nick, and appreciate that question.
I like that.
Absolutely. That was a good one. That was a good one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Kings, always,
King.
always beautiful. The fellowship is always magnificent. I mean, always, always. Questions were powerful. The answers were just as insightful.
Right.
We
Right.
encourage your likes, your thoughts, your suggestions, your questions. As a beautiful one that Nick gave us tonight.
Yes.
We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Riverside FM, and there's a couple of other ones that coming to TikTok soon. So if you can't watch this video, pop them earplugs in or get it in that car where you can listen to our voices.
There you go.
We're coming at you. We're coming at you. It was a
Yes, sir.
beautiful, beautiful fellowship tonight, Kings, as always. Much
Yes,
love
sir.
to you.
Much love, Kings.
Much
We'll
love.
see y'all next time.
Yes, sir.